old habits die hard. But the world's most pressing problems, from global heating to pollution and biodiversity loss, all demand that we change our ways. We have fascinating examples lined up for you today that illustrate the impact such adjustments can make. Hello and welcome to Eco India. I'm Sanuta Raghu. My family, like many in India, celebrates the festival of Ganesh Chaturthi in honor of one of the most popular Hindu deities. At the end of the celebration, the idols are meant to be immersed in a water body. This is a farewell ritual. Our idol, which is made of metal, is immersed in a tub at home. But many idols in India are made of non-biodegradable raw materials and end up polluting the water body they're immersed in, be it lakes or the sea. Some activists, NGOs and officials have been working to make this celebration more sustainable.
A sounding of drums to honor the god Ganesha. The festival of Ganesh Chaturthi marks his birth and dates back centuries. A more recent ritual in celebrations was introduced in the early 20th century. The faithful welcome the elephant god into their homes and communities in the form of an idol.
The people come here to seek their blessings. If they have anything which they want to ask from God, then the Bappa blesses with them.
In Mumbai alone, some 200,000 idols are bought every year. Most of them small-scale figures for use in family homes. Traditionally, these have been made from non-biodegradable plaster of Paris or POP and decorated with synthetic paints that contain heavy metals like lead, cadmium, zinc and iron. That's a problem at the end of the festival, when the idol is immersed into a water body as a symbol of the god's return to nature. No matter whether it's a river, lake or the sea, the environmental impact is severe, as cleanup activist Chinu Kawatra has seen on Mumbai's beaches.
Last year we saw a biggest disaster where thousands of dead fishes were out because of consuming POP materials, and that's how the chemical affects the marine species.
Plaster of Paris idols are still widely available despite a 2020 government ban. It's faced pushback from hundreds of thousands of artisans and vendors who say it threatens their livelihoods. But there are families opting for various eco-friendly versions, families like the Auroras. The idol they bring home is made from natural clay. It's known as a tree Ganesha because seeds are mixed into the clay. When it's time to immerse their idol, the family places it in a bucket of water where it eventually dissolves into a fertile sludge to grow saplings. Other families in the Aurora's complex have switched to tree Ganeshas too, a boon for their shared garden.
We are doing it because this way we are planting. Every household today is bringing in a tree Ganesha so that we are not doing the wastage of that paint, toxic into sea. Most of these trees have been planted from the tree Ganesha, which we have been doing regularly from 7 years. So various trees in our society are planted this way only.
The Auroras and their neighbors aren't the only ones concerned about the festival's environmental impact. Amid increasing calls for idols to be recycled, authorities have also launched a pilot program to salvage clay figures.
As a result of our awareness campaigns, we're receiving many clay idols this year. Their numbers have increased. After it disintegrates on its own, we remove the clay, dry it, and recycle it with local Kumhar artisans.
The clay is brought here to workshops run by artisans who first separate the valuable clay from leftover plastics. Once brought to the right consistency, sculptors start fashioning the clay into new idols for other Hindu celebrations. The upcoming Navratri festival, for example, when idols will again be in high demand. Apart from recycling, municipal governments are encouraging people to stop immersing their idols in natural water bodies. This year, Mumbai set up dozens of artificial ponds across the city, like this one at the entrance to a beach in Juhu that usually draws large crowds for immersion ceremonies. Officials say the idea is catching on, and about a third of the idols purchased this year ended up in tanks like these. Unfortunately for marine wildlife, the rest washed up on Mumbai's shores, where activists again worked to clear the debris. But they did note an improvement, thanks in large part to a rise in awareness.
The youth of the nation is definitely understanding the meaning of festivals and making it in a very eco-friendly way. No doubt we see Diwali, we see Eid, we see all kind of festivals where there is a sensitize in the society where they are spreading the message.
That message still needs to reach many more people, and they need to pitch in to ensure that the 4 big Hindu festivals celebrated every year in Mumbai and across India can go green.
Well, with Ganesh revered as a remover of obstacles, he may be the deity invoked by many Indian farmers battling climate change. Increasingly irregular weather conditions have led to unprecedented crop losses, dealing further blows to a sector where poverty is widespread. A private forecasting agency is trying to help by providing farmers with accurate, customized weather predictions.
Clearing up after yet another storm. A number of trees have been downed. For farmer Sandeep Rana from Uttar Pradesh, each tree means a loss of 3,000 rupees. That's around 37 euros or 1/5 of his entire monthly income.
It is very upsetting to see the loss. A farmer always depends on his crops. And losses like these, they really cost me dearly.
Last year, 5 million hectares of farmland in India were devastated by storms. Climate change is making these extreme weather events more extreme and harder to predict. Every year, thousands of small-scale farmers are driven to despair. Unable to feed their families, they see suicide as their only way out. In 2020 alone, 5,000 farmers took their own lives. The Indian government has introduced an insurance system to try to cushion farmers' losses. The only problem is, because many farmers have had bad experiences with insurance companies in the past, they often don't bother making a claim.
When a lot of farmers come to claim their insurance, there is not sufficient manpower to conduct surveys. There is a stipulated time frame to conduct the survey, but there are not enough people, so it takes too long.
So, insurance isn't popular among farmers. Only around a quarter of the farmland in India is insured. The government is now aiming to expand that to at least half the land, so that more farmers are safeguarded from financial losses. One private company could possibly be of help here. SkyMet provides weather forecasts. More than 7,000 weather stations spread across India record the weather assisted by satellite imagery. This is very useful information for insurance companies.
We are having data sets. Insurance companies basically comes to us, they say that during that particular period, suppose that date to that date or in that particular month, suppose in the month of May or June, there was an adverse weather condition and we need to settle some insurance claims in a particular area of a farmer. So they comes to us and we basically sell those data units to them.
In Sandeep Rana's home village of Tipra, around 80 farmers have joined a new insurance scheme. Agents document the size of each farm and the nature of its produce. In the event of damages, their data is passed to SkyMet, which forwards it with the relevant weather data to the insurer. Sandeep Rana is also in the scheme. For 3 years now, his fields have been insured. He mainly grows mangoes. The insurance costs him 7,500 rupees for 6 months. That's around 94 euros, but it's only 5% of the real cost. The state pays the rest. Last year, almost his entire mango harvest was wiped out due to prolonged drought followed by heavy rains. Thankfully, he was insured.
It wasn't possible to calculate and prove what profits I could have earned from the sale of the mangoes. But through the insurance, I got 30 to 35,000 rupees, which at least covered all my costs.
So that's around 440 euros for fertilizer and pesticides, which nearly all the farmers here use. In addition to working with insurance companies, SkyMet also makes its weather data available for users of its app. A growing number of farmers are using the app for their work in the fields. The forecasts give them a tool to make plans.
Through the SkyMet app, we get to know about weather updates. We know if it's going to rain or not. So, we know if we should spray the fertilizer that day or sow the crops.
Climate change has massively increased the risks faced by farmers. With smart ideas like weather apps and express insurance solutions, they can at least limit their losses and safeguard their livelihood for the future.
Another knock-on effect of climate change is our dramatic loss of species. Around the world, efforts are underway to bring endangered species back from the brink, not just to save animals, but also to help mitigate climate change. To find out how that is supposed to work, our reporter met a team in Bulgaria dealing with the creepiest species of them all, vultures.
The vulture has a pretty bad reputation. Forever chillin', like a villain.
Very funny.
A most evil character.
I'm up here in the mountains of Bulgaria, where these guys are the central characters of the story. And they're the good guys.
Around the world, groups are bringing vultures back, as well as other wildlife from lynxes to beavers, even Eurasian wolves. And the goal is for them to play a key role in mitigating the climate crisis. We're living through what's being called the sixth mass extinction, where up to 150 species are going extinct every day.
Around the world, many groups are trying to reverse this. And up on that mountain, one of the biggest such projects is underway.
I'm in the Vrachansky Balkan Nature Park in western Bulgaria, accompanying a group of bird handlers. They're working on a potentially game-changing concept called rewilding. Here, it involves releasing vultures into the skies. The idea is for this to have a knock-on effect on the whole ecosystem. We'll get to how that could all work in a minute, but first meet the vulture man in these parts, Hristo Peshev, who's doing a PhD on these infamous birds.
So how many birds are actually in this area now?
Because the birds move constantly between different reintroduction areas, between different colonies, you cannot never say, but maybe around 100.
The project began in 2016. Today, 13 young vultures are sitting in an aviary at the top of the mountain, waiting to be released.
Where have they come from?
These are native Spanish birds, because they need to adapt. They need to meet the other birds in the area. They need to know the area, so they are watching. They are bring here, and now they start to think of this place like their home.
The vultures and the Balkan ecosystem go together like bread and butter. The extensive grasslands, wildlife, shepherds, and vultures evolved together here over thousands of years, supporting each other. Every time a wild animal or sheep or cow died, the vultures stepped in. The industrialization of sheep farming meant that the once open grazing sheep moved indoors and died indoors, and vultures lost access to a large part of their food supply. These are still huge challenges for the birds, along with hunting. Their population went down from possibly hundreds of thousands of vultures in the 1900s to one breeding pair of griffon vultures and 0 cinereous vultures later in the century. So now the team is trying to bring them back, the vultures. They're like the local recycling department. It's very important they exist to clear up rot, which stops the spread of disease. And more importantly for the ecosystem, as the birds break down organic matter, they send nutrients back into the soil that keeps everything healthy. Here in the Bulgarian grasslands, the decline of the vulture has meant that diseases can spread faster, and the grassland itself has become weaker. As soil degrades, grass is affected, and this effect knocks on to other living and non-living components in the biosphere. And this is the big problem globally. Weaker grasslands and broken cycles impact the climate. Along with forests, croplands and wetlands, grasslands in the EU absorb 263 million tons of carbon dioxide equivalent per year. That's around 4.5 times the total annual emissions of Bulgaria in 2019. The EU is looking to restore more land to raise that number to over 310 million tons by 2030. Globally, UNEP has called for restoring land the size of Canada over that period. So each release is important.
So what do you hope will happen to this bird?
I hope that it will be usual. We'll just release it, stay 2-3 days around, knowing the surroundings, and then meet the other birds on the cliffs and start to live in this area.
I step away so the bird can have its space to fly free. It's the moment we've been waiting for. A bit underwhelming, but she's off. To ensure their survival, the team here have set up vulture restaurants around the country for the now free vultures to visit when they need to, as well as for those still in aviaries. A Michelin star menu for them, and 0 stars from me. Christo and I picked up a cow and a sheep that died of natural causes at 2 nearby farms. The restaurants are a temporary solution. The team hopes that farmers will set up their own feeding sites. Partner projects are also introducing red deer into mountains here, so vultures will have enough to eat without human intervention someday.
We don't know what will happen in 100 years, 200 years. One way is total destruction, cataclysm, global warming, and the other ways we change and we start to live with nature. And if they disappeared now, there is no opportunity for the future generation to have nature. They will have nothing.
There are now over 300 vultures in Bulgaria. And last year, the first wild vulture chick was born in 50 years in these mountains. But equally, dozens have ended up being poisoned or died from starvation, exhausted from flying around searching for food.
Somewhere up on those cliffs, new birds are slowly settling into their new home, and older ones are probably mating or even having offspring. Or it could all be going completely wrong.
Rewilding doesn't guarantee the survival of the species or the systems, but it is a chance to transform entire landscapes and help the climate stay resilient.
Now, in many fields, we're discovering that old traditions can address modern challenges. The Vedas are ancient scriptures and describe the best practices for a Hindu way of life. Among its applied knowledge literature is the Sthapatya Veda, which demonstrates a holistic approach to building and construction. One entrepreneur has developed a product called Vedic plaster using some of these principles. Our reporter checked out its feasibility.
It's morning in Delhi, and in his family home, Balakrishna is inspecting progress on an extension to the building. The cement is widely used for both indoor and outdoor plastering in India. Balakrishna opted for an eco-friendly alternative, a mud-based product made from organic materials. It creates a breathable surface that absorbs heat and humidity naturally and releases both evenly. The result is a stable indoor temperature, a relief in hot climates.
देखिए कंक्रीट में तो ये प्रॉब्लम है सबसे ज़्यादा कंक्रीट स्ट्रक्चर में.
A concrete structure absorbs heat during the day and releases it after sunset.
सनसेट के बाद उसको रिलीज करता है हीट को. तो वो सारा
It heats up the interior, creating the need for air conditioning.
हर वक्त उसके लिए कूल करने के लिए बहुत लंबा.
But with this plaster, you don't need air conditioning. It actually has a cooling effect.
अगर बहुत एक्सट्रीम पे है तो बहुत अच्छा काम करेगा.
The plaster is manufactured 480 kilometers from Delhi, on the outskirts of Bikaner. Chemist Shiv Darshan Malik studied mud houses around the world to devise a whole palette of alternative building materials.
एक बार क्या हुआ
Once while I was sleeping inside my house, there was a power cut and I woke up in a sweat. Then I remembered my ancestral house never got this hot during summers. Neither was it too cold during winters. So I started thinking about why modern houses are warming up and what is missing from them.
What was missing, he found, were natural materials like soil, cow dung, clay, gypsum, cluster beans, and limestone. Drawing on an ancient Indian holistic approach to building, Malik launched his company Vedic Plaster in 2018. It doesn't just produce plaster, but bricks and paint made from natural materials as well.
Our ancestors had a very smart way of living. Today we should be relying on modern technology, but we also have to look at the ways our ancestors used to coexist with nature.
To produce the plaster base, calcinated gypsum is collected from nearby fields. It is then mixed with cow dung, soil, and guar gum to improve the texture and workability. Finally, citric acid is added to prevent mold and fungus. For the company's eco-friendly brick, soil is collected from surrounding areas and cow dung is procured from local farmers. The materials are first weighed and then mixed. The mixture is put into a machine with water and lime. Once ready, it is set aside to rest for 24 hours. On the next day, the mixture is molded into bricks and left to dry out in the sun for a week. This drying process eliminates the need to burn bricks in a furnace, and that helps cut carbon emissions. So too does the fact that these bricks can be produced locally, anywhere in the country.
I live in Bikaner, so say someone wants these bricks in Chennai. Instead of transporting them from here, there is abundant raw material there, which can be used to manufacture the bricks. So you save up on carbon emissions.
The company regularly schedules workshops on how to produce these bricks. Manufacturing locally also helps cut down costs. That is key to promoting sustainable construction in India, which next year is projected to surpass China as the world's most populated country. Explosive growth has put immense pressure on the existing urban infrastructure. Forests and agricultural land have given way to streets, parking lots, and buildings, all built from concrete. Studies show cities like Delhi have witnessed a temperature rise of 2 to 3 degrees Celsius in the last 15 years. Experts say concrete is largely to blame because it absorbs heat during the day and releases it at night, a phenomenon known as the urban heat island effect. Manju Mohan is a professor at the India Institute of Technology's Center for Atmospheric Sciences in Delhi. She uses satellite data to study the difference in temperature between urban areas and their outskirts.
So urban heat island effect for tropical and subtropical cities is important because we consume lot of cooling energy. So higher temperatures really contribute a lot in energy consumption. The climate change and increasing temperature is concern across the world. And the increasing temperature is mostly now, it is very well recognized, is also being caused due to these urbanization processes.
This year, parts of India experienced not just one but a series of severe heat waves. Average maximum temperatures for May were the highest in 122 years. In cities, concrete only intensified the sense of unbearable, sweltering heat. Calls are growing for a fundamental rethink of how India builds its cities, and traditional materials like mud-based plaster are a step in the right direction. A 25-kilogram bag of Vedic plaster covers up to 2 square meters and costs about 5 euros. That is similar to the price of cement plaster, but builders say it pays to use mud-based materials.
This is a one-time cost and will last a lifetime. The cost of using Vedic plaster is similar to conventional building materials. It won't cost you more than the cement. And these materials actually they will cost you even less.
The global climate is changing and the world is facing more frequent heat waves than in the previous decade. The excessive use of concrete is only worsening the crisis. While the existing urban structures will continue to aggravate the heat, using technology to improve traditional construction practices can help mitigate the problem.
Changing one's way of life can be hard. But when even a small change can benefit the health of our planet and ensure that our future generations continue to enjoy it like we do, it's worth it. Think about that, and I'll see you again next week. Goodbye and thanks for watching.